Hey, welcome to The Explainer. So today we're jumping right into the generative AI revolution. The one that's totally reshaping our world. We are going to pull back the curtain on the one single idea, the real secret sauce that's been driving all of these incredible breakthroughs. Let's do this.
I mean, from ChatGPT to these text-to-image models that just blow your mind, the pace of change is absolutely staggering. But you know what? This didn't just happen out of nowhere. There was a fundamental shift, a single unlock that made all of this possible. So what on earth was it?
To really get the secret, you first have to appreciate the sheer scale of the explosion we've all been living through. I mean, it seriously feels like a new era has dawned, and in a lot of ways it has. The last year or so has just been a complete whirlwind.
What's truly wild is just how fast this is all moving. Think about it. In early 2023, we were just getting our minds around text and image generation. A few months later, boom! NVIDIA, the company literally making the hardware for this revolution, hits a $1 trillion valuation. By the end of that same year, governments are scrambling to put rules in place. And now we're already talking about autonomous agents that can think and act on their own. The acceleration is it's off the charts.
Okay, so to find this secret, it actually helps to look in the mirror. How do we as people learn about the world? This comparison, it gives us the perfect way to understand the massive shift that happened in AI.
Seriously, think about it. We all start out as these kind of helpless babies, right? A total blank slate. But somehow, over time, we interact with the world and we become these capable, knowledgeable adults. So what happens in between? What are the actual mechanics of learning? Well, let's look at a couple of the classic ideas.
For a long time, AI learning really just mimicked two basic ideas about how we learn. The first one is having a teacher. That's called supervised learning. It's like a parent pointing at an apple and saying, apple. The other way is by chasing a goal. That's reinforcement learning. You learn by trial and error, getting feedback as you try to, win the game or get the reward.
But here's the catch. Neither of these is nearly powerful enough to build the kind of AI we have today. Not even close. Supervised learning is just way too expensive. You need huge teams of people labeling data 24/7, and it just doesn't scale. And reinforcement learning? Well, it's way too slow and dangerous for the real world. I mean, you can't have an AI learn to drive by crashing a million cars. It's a total non-starter.
So, if the old ways just weren't cutting it, what changed? What is the real secret? Well, it turns out, most of what you know wasn't drilled into you by a teacher or learned by chasing some reward. You learned it yourself, just by watching, just by observing the world around you.
And this right here, this is the secret sauce. It's called self-supervised learning. It is the incredible ability for an AI to teach itself just by observing enormous amounts of raw, unlabeled data and figuring out the patterns and the structure of the world all on its own. No human hand-holding, no explicit goals, just pure, unadulterated observation.
The whole thing boils down to this one simple but incredibly profound idea. An AI, just like you and me, can figure out what something means by looking at the context, by seeing what other things it tends to show up with.
Let's make this real. How do you really know what a dog is? It's not because someone pointed and said dog a million times. It's because you saw dogs in countless situations. You saw them on leashes, chasing frisbees, barking at mail carriers, and having this complicated relationship with cats. You built this rich web of understanding about dog just by observing its context. And funny enough, in the process of understanding dog, you also learned a little bit more about what a cat is.
Okay, check this out. Let's see it in action. If we ask an image model, generate a cat playing with a mouse, it nails it, every time. And why? Because in all the data it's seen, the words cat and mouse have this super strong, very clear connection. The model just gets it.
But now, watch what happens when that connection, that context, is weaker. If we ask for a dog playing with a mouse, the relationship is way less common, right? The model gets a bit confused, and what does it spit out? A dog playing with a computer mouse. This is such a perfect, beautiful illustration of how context creates meaning. The context gets fuzzy, and so does the output.
So this whole idea, learning by just observing, it feels so natural, right? So incredibly intuitive. Which begs the question, why did it take so long for this to become the main way we build AI? Well, to answer that, we have to zoom out a bit and look at two big, competing ideas about how the world works.
For centuries, we've kind of had these two camps. In one corner, you've got the order worldview. This is the top-down approach. It believes the universe can be understood with perfect, clean rules like physics and math. It's all about design and blueprints. In the other corner, you have the chaos worldview. This is bottom-up. It accepts that the world is messy, unpredictable, and favors learning and adapting over some rigid master plan.
Now, for most of human history, especially in the sciences, we have been obsessed with order. And for good reason. This worldview gave us the scientific revolution, modern engineering. It even got us to the moon. It was unbelievably powerful. But it has a limit. Because our day-to-day lives, the world we actually live in, isn't governed by clean equations. We live in a world of chaos.
So if our world is chaotic, what's the ultimate tool for dealing with it? Well, nature, over billions of years of evolution, didn't come up with a perfect calculator. It came up with a brain. The brain is the ultimate chaos navigation machine. It's flexible, it's adaptive, and it is built to learn from a messy world. And what are artificial neural networks? They are our best attempt to build a brain inside a computer.
Okay, so let's bring this back to Earth and see how this new approach is actually being used. By embracing this chaos-first, learn-by-observing method, we can now tackle these incredibly complex problems that used to be impossible, and the applications are just exploding everywhere.
Take genomics, for example. You can take an AI model and just flood it with endless DNA sequences, just raw letters, and you give it a dead simple task: predict the next letter. That's it. But here's the magic. To get good at that simple prediction, the model is forced to implicitly learn the entire language of life. It has to figure out what genes are, how they're structured, all on its own, without a single human label.
Or think about retail. The old way was, you'd hire expensive consultants to make up these rigid customer profiles like soccer moms or urban millennials. It was clumsy and missed all the nuance. The new way? You just let an AI observe raw shopping data. What's bought with what, what's looked at next. It learns these deep, subtle connections between people and products that no human could ever define, which leads to way, way better recommendations.
And that's really the big takeaway. That's the secret sauce. We finally figured out that the most powerful, most efficient way to build intelligence isn't to meticulously teach it rules. It's to just let it learn for itself. You give it a mountain of data and a simple prediction game, and in the process of playing that game, it builds its own rich internal model of how the world actually works.
Which leaves us with one last thought to chew on. If I were holding this clicker and I let it go, and it just floated there, you'd be shocked. Why? Because you have a model of physics in your head that is constantly, subconsciously predicting what's going to happen next. So the real question is, are we all just running our own biological, self-supervised algorithms, constantly observing and predicting, just to make sense of the chaos?